Okay, so today we're going to complete our Mondrian Broadway Boogie Woogie paintings. I've given everyone 7 strips of paper. Make sure that you just put dots of glue on the black strip of paper. If you put glue on your line and your line isn't all the way straight, you will have a lot of messy glue on your paper, and we really don't want that. It does not need a solid line of glue. It simply needs a few dots of glue. 7 lines, so 7 pieces of paper will be perfect. Some of your paper might be thin because your lines are very straight. Or if your lines were not very straight, you might choose to use a strip of paper that's a little thicker. If your lines are very close together, you might have to take one of the black strips of paper and cut it in half to make it skinnier. You decide how thick the stripes need to be to complete your art. Now, once you have all the strips in place, the next thing you'll need to do is decide where the bottom of your art is. You might want to turn it around a few directions before you know where you think the bottom goes. When you're certain of that, you're ready to find a rectangle for signing your name. Mark Rothko was an artist, part of a group called Color Field Painters. They came from the School of New York. They were very large canvases, flat. No real distinction of what is behind in the background or in front in the foreground. They emphasized the tension between the colors, or sometimes the emotion of the artist as they were creating the painting. There was an overlapping of colors, a blur between the colors. The artists want the viewers to experience color as an enormous, engulfing expanse. Morris Louis was another artist, as well as Beat Ridgway, who tried this. Helen Frankenthaler was another of the more famous painters from this stage. Her canvases were laid out upon the floor so that she could pour paint and pour paint thinner to create a variety of values within each color, sometimes wanting to see that overlapping as she thinned and scraped away paint, creating a large variety of the darkness and lightness of the colors upon her canvas. One of her quotes is, "You have to know how to use the accident, how to recognize it, how to control it, and ways to eliminate it so the whole surface looks felt and born at once." Okay, so for today we're going to be kind of checking in on some watercolor techniques. The first thing I want everyone to do is go ahead and wet their brush, and we want to use maybe some red first. Just drag it across the bottom of the paper. Remember, I'm going to paint red again, so we just quick dip and to the red paint again across the paper. Okay, now this time we're not going to the paint, we're just going to dip in the water and bring that back to the paper. If your paint didn't get all the way across the paper before, as you paint simply with water, you'll see that it will. Now, wetting with water again, we're just going to paint some water a little higher up on the paper so we can create a wet on wet feeling. So this time I'm going to come and get a little orange paint and bring it across. Oh, that was a pretty light orange. I think I'll try this orange on my palette. There we go. Okay, letting that orange paint move around gently. My brush is really moving gently across the top of the paper. I'm not pressing hard with it. Really, the water is what's helping the paint move along. So to the water, I'm going to bring my wet water farther up the paper so that the colors will keep blending together on their own. And back into this orange again. Just want to create some rich sunset colors. Taking water a little farther up the paper. This is called a watercolor wash. I think I'll try some yellow now. Also, when we get water paint from the palette, we don't want to scrub the ferrule into the paint. It's just the hair of the brush dabbing across. We can always go back, a quick dip in the water and back to the yellow to darken the color. But scrubbing harder in watercolor paint doesn't necessarily create the color you're looking for. So the more wet I make the paper, the more easily the paint spreads around on my paper. Like I said, you can always come back and add another coat on the top. You don't always have to get as dark as you want with your first run through, especially if your touch with the brush on the paper is very gentle. So, make sure you've satisfied yourself. Just doing thin stripes, red to orange to yellow, and letting the water let these colors blend together on its own.